How you doing? I'm John. I'm with the ALS program with my partner Ty. We're going to do a little discussion on mental mindsets. Question to you guys. If you're driving on the road, like most of us do, going to and from work or whatever, nice, enjoyable day, you got the radio on, you got the windows down, you're catching air, everything's going normal for you. And then all of a sudden something out of the ordinary, like your front tire blows out, or someone from the bridge over I-77, like they normally do, throw a rock through your windshield. That kind of changes the mindset on a little bit. Like in the Virginia Tech shooting, the students at the door and stuff like that, they're normally, the door opens up and they just run out. Well, what happened in the shooting is South chained the door. So it actually changed their mindset from being able to run out that door to get into that door and it's like, I got nowhere to go. My partner Ty has a couple demonstrations and a couple things that he wants to show as far as mindsets. And sort of with a Ty for a second. And
everybody stand up for a minute. Stand up for a minute. I'm going to lead you through a quick experiment. Very quick. Very quick. And it simply goes like this. I want you to fill in the blanks. It has everything to do with mindset. You, ma'am, if you just step right out here, you're going to be my lovely Miss Vanna White. Sure. I'm going to ask you to fill in the blanks. If I tell you something funny, I told you a joke. Okay, a little bit louder, faster. Everybody, here we go. If I tell you something funny, I told you a joke. If I do this to her, I gave her a joke. An egg white is a joke. No. Let's look at that. Thank you. What you just experienced is something called NLP. What does that stand for?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
You're absolutely right. So when we think about neuro, what do we think about? The brain, that's right. When we think about linguistics, what do we think about? Language, words. And so what we did was we used words on your brain to program you to respond in a way that you know is wrong. Now, how does that happen to people in everyday life? A lot of times we're inundated with messages, signals from media, and those kinds of things. And if we're not careful, it's the influences that we've been exposed to that come out in our behavior. And so what often happens when people are in crisis situations, there's critical incidents, they respond in ways that they were taught. Who's heard of that story of the police officer who was killed when they found out in researching shootings of police officers that it resulted or was the result of training? Because this particular police officer was trained that after he shot and emptied his magazine, he was to do what?
Catch the brass.
Catch the brass, right? And so in the process of catching the brass, it impeded his capacity to do what? Reload, right? And to protect himself. And so there are many occasions when we talk about educators, school personnel, those from South Euclid Lyndhurst, those from Bedford, those from Wadsworth, Westlake. Many of them have been conditioned through a process called lockdown only. That's what they're supposed to do. Well, let me show you a victim who makes the shift. I'm going to show you where she was at the beginning of the crisis and where she ended up. And where she ended up is where we want our people to end up for the safety of school children and the safety of the people that are responsible for their education. So take a look.
Well, I was waiting in line to see Gabrielle, and I heard a shot, and I immediately knew it was a gunshot. And in that split second, I had to make a decision whether to run or to lie down on the ground. And I decided I would be a target if I ran because the gunman was now just steps from me. And I laid down, and the woman next to me was shielding her teenage daughter, and he shot her. She had 3 wounds. I expected to be next. I was laying there on the concrete wondering how bad it was going to be and how it was going to hurt.
Now, was she in a crisis?
Yes.
Yeah. Who's heard of that situation in Arizona where you had the congresswoman shot? Yeah, shot in the head. She's lucky she's alive. and several other staffers, right? You remember that? Well, this lady was also there. And she experienced that. She was in line just to meet and greet and shake the politicians' hands. And what's her mindset initially after all this stuff breaks down? What did she say? Lay down. Right? And she went into the mode of trying to imagine what? How bad it was going to hurt. Folks, do you know I've actually been in that situation? Yeah. When I was in my 20s, the guy pulled a firearm on me and pointed the barrel to my temple. I didn't think about, oh my goodness, I've never been to Disney World. I won't get a chance to see Mickey Mouse. I didn't think about any of those things. I didn't think about my family. Only thing I thought about was I was trying to imagine what the bullet was going to feel like once it left the chamber and entered my skull. Is that a good place to be? Is it a good place for you to be? Is it a good place for teachers to be? Is it a good place for students to be? It's not even good for her. Well, thank goodness she does make the shift, and it ends up being a surprise to the active killer. And so look at what happened as Grandma kicks into gear after she's prompted by someone else.
And instead of a gunshot, the shooter was now on the ground just on top of me nearly, and there were two gentlemen on top of him, and somebody said, "Get the gun," and I was already up on my knees and over his waist. The gun was out of my reach, but he was reaching into his pocket with his left hand and pulling out the magazine, which fell on the sidewalk. I managed to get the magazine before he could get it. I got it secure in my hand. He was flailing his...
Now where is she? Is she being active? Is she? Yes, she is. Well, let's talk about some strategies here. I'm going to call up a couple of volunteers. Come on. Mindset. Involuntarily volunteer. I want you to just stand right back here. Mindset. Nancy Reagan years ago had this campaign and she said, just say no. What was she talking about? Drugs. Drugs, right? Something that those teenagers at Westlake should have probably got that lesson a long time ago, right? But she was talking about drugs. But here's the point. If all you do is tell people what not to do and you give them no options, then what are they going to revert to, even if it's not for their best interest, what they've already been doing? And so what this program, in terms of getting that mental shift, is we got to put people in a position where they have options, right? And in order to put them in the position where they have options, we've got to teach them why things work. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to have you stand right where you are. Are you right or left hand? Right hand. Right hand. Hold your right hand up and ball your fist. Okay? Studio audience, what I want you to pay attention to is what happens here. This is what's going to occur. I'm only going to use a little bit of force to attempt to move your arm in this direction. Your assignment is to keep it straight. So we're going to give you a test. Nice job. Good test. Nice job. Good test. That's all the force I'm going to use. So you two just relax. Shake it out. I want you to watch what happens here. Relax. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not going to do any of the things I did to them, to you. I want you to participate in a simple activity while you keep your arm straight and not let me move it. Raise your arm. I want you to answer this simple mind question, this question. What's 1 plus 1? 2. Relax. What happened here? What happened here? Distracted. How? Yeah. Yeah, stimuli, right? We can't be in two places at once. Sight and sound. Took him up here. What happened to him? What happened to him? Change the channel. Love handles, right? Tap right there. Can't focus in two places. Right here, right? What happened to him?
A math question.
Math.
That was worse than all of us.
Yeah, our educators over here are saying special needs. But here's the thing. Let's take them off the list. Let's give them a hand.
Very good.
When you provide options and a person has access to options, they can use those as tools. One of the things that we're taught, even though it's not necessarily per se part of Alice, but when we talk about countermeasures, which is what the group did before us, to be able to distract by what? Throwing what? Objects, right? Well, what if you're in a situation where you don't have objects to throw? Okay? You saw the video yesterday of the person in the board meeting in Florida, right? Remember that? And he has a real gun or a fake gun. It was fake, right? Was that a period where you could engage in other types of distractions if you did not have objects to throw? Yes. One of the things that we use as countermeasures as hostage negotiators is we use questions. And that's what happened to the last participant. Using questions, social psychologists have demonstrated slows down a person's arousal toward escalation. And so when we have a variety of tools, whether it be throwing objects or throwing questions, and you can train people that they have resources to access, then they're not stuck. Many times people end up frozen because they feel like they have no options. She felt like the only thing that I can do is just lay here, wait to be shot, and hope it doesn't hurt that bad. Well, getting back to Alice, and my colleague is going to close out here, we want to teach these other measures to shift mindset so people feel like they have options and they can do other things and just wait to be sitting targets. And we want to look at this. The reality of it is this, these numbers right here. And my colleague will explain what this is all about.
Basically, you just sit there and you don't do anything at all, you're going to get shot, you're going to get killed, you're going to get murdered. If you change your mindset to just hiding in a corner and just sitting there waiting for the killer to come in and kill you, it's going to happen. If you find another avenue of escape, for example, here we have 14 people that were present in the room. 10 people were killed, 2 were wounded. Those were the ones that sat at a desk or cowered in a corner. Where, and the other one where people were barricaded in, there were 13 people present, you had 5 killed, 6 were wounded. That's after the first time. With the barricaded, there were 12 people present, 2 were killed, nobody wounded. They chose the option to get out. Where if the cells, if you just stand, you're going to get shot. You're going to get killed. If you jump the suspect or if you exit, there's 13 people present, 2 people were killed, 3 people were wounded. So you have the choice of either staying and being a target, having a target on your back, or finding another alternative, either barricading yourself, using the ropes, doors, whatever you can use, or getting out. You got to leave.
The reason why this information is so important is because when you have people who have been exposed to messages over and over again that they do nothing, lockdown, you have these people running around communities saying, well, if you do another type of program, liability will go up. Well, I think I choose my chances on survivability versus liability and answer that question later. That's a mental shift. You've got to get people off stuff. And the only way to do that is to give them, and it begins with an O, what is that? Options. And that's what Alice says.